Hello everybody, I'm Melissa and welcome back to Book Bar and welcome to my July end of month wrap up where I will be discussing my 10 books and 1 DNF for the second half of the month. If you want to know my thoughts on the first half of the month books, I'll have it linked up here in my mid-month wrap up. But we're just going to go ahead and get on into it. If this is your first time watching, I talk about books in the order of how I completed them. I may have started this book on like the second or third, but I didn't finish it till later on in the month. But we're just going to go ahead and get on into it. The first book I have is 5 Broken Blades by Michae Corland. I read this because I was doing a Red Tower vlog and I ended up hating it. So I scrapped it. But I actually really ended up enjoying this book. Is it the best thing ever written? No. I still gave it 3.5 stars because it was so it was very choppy. But the end was very intriguing and it had me excited for the next book, whereas the other books I read did not. So this was probably my favorite from that, reading those 3 books. But yeah, so 5 Broken Blades. It's rough at the beginning, but I made it through. The audiobook is really good. It's different narrators for each character, so that was fun. But I had a good time with this. I guess I should describe what it's about. So this follows it follows 3 main people, at the beginning. You hear from 3 main perspectives. So you have a girl, Sora, who she is the poison master. She can poison anyone with a kiss. She has knows all the different types of poisons. She went to poison school. She basically her blood is poison. She is immune to all the poisons, everything. Then there's Royo, who is a strong man, which he basically just kills people. And then there's Ewan, who is the king's younger brother. So then Sora is tasked with going to kill the king. Royo is by her, the man that owns her. He owns her and he owns her sister. And he's if you do this, I will give you and your sister your freedom. So she's okay, fine. Then Ewan is found by Michae, who is his lover. And Michae wants to kill the king. And he knows about Sora and Royo, which I'll get to Royo in a second. But so he asks Ewan to come with him to help kill his brother. And then Royo is tasked by a girl, I can't remember her name, but she asks him to protect her so she can go and kill the king because she has a plan on how she is going to kill the king. So they're all traveling and they end up meeting up and they go to kill the king. And some stuff happens. They become friends. Other things happen. But yeah, I actually really did end up enjoying this. So yeah, 3.5 stars. Then I read Everyone in My Family Has Killed Somebody by Benjamin Stevenson. I read this with my dad as a buddy read. We try to read a book a month. We're having fun with it. He's more into the mystery side of things and sometimes fantasy, but he's been really into mysteries. He's reading dad books, total dad books. When you think of a dad, he's reading, that's the type of book he's reading, but so I've been trying to find things that I could connect with on him. So we picked this one and I ended up giving it 5 stars. So this follows Ernie, I think is his name. And he goes with his family to a we get a family reunion vacation thing because his older brother is getting out of prison. And he learned that his older brother, or he is the reason that his older brother was in prison for something that his brother did. Basically, everyone in their family has killed someone, whether it was an accident or on purpose. And you learn a little bit more about each member of the family. And there's some deaths that happen at this resort. And it's very interesting. And I had a really good time with it. And it was fun talking about it with my dad. It was much better than the book we read last month. So I will say that. Then I read Starting Line by Michae Marie. This is an Olympic gymnast, TJ, and an Olympic swimmer, Caleb. And TJ and Caleb were in the same Olympics 4 years ago. I did read this for my new release vlog. I'll have the link as well. They were in the Olympics 4 years ago. Or at the start of this, it was 3.5 years ago, 3 years ago. And Caleb didn't he was just kind of a jerk to TJ. And so she has remembered this all along. She has remembered this. Now it's a couple years later and they're both going to be in a documentary. And it turns out that they live in the same building. And so they spend a lot of time together. Caleb realizes that TJ really doesn't have much of a life outside of gymnastics, so he wants to like bring her out of her shell, have her do fun things, and she learns that his persona that he propagates to the public is much more of a like act than anyone knows. So yeah, it was a really good time. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars. Then I read another arc. I read Meant for Love by Natasha and Madison, also for my new release vlog. This is a Married in Vegas romance. It is, I didn't write their names down. I don't know why. I think his name is Nash. And her name is Zoe. And, her name's Zoe. And Nash and Zoe, like, knew each other in passing, friends of friends type of thing. And Nash knows that Zoe, like, she basically is a publicist and does work for companies and things and fixes their image, and he needs that for his image. So for his company. So he asks Zoe to come and help him, and they decide to go to Vegas and get married. And yeah, things go from there. This one was a lot more focused on like the physical aspect than it was the emotional, and like there was a lot of plot done up in the last like 25%, and I just didn't care for that. So yeah, 3.5 stars. It was still good. I still will probably read more. That is that one. Then another new release that I finished was Business Casual by B.K. Borison. This is the final book in the Love Light Farm series, and I'm so sad. So sad that this is over. But this follows Nova and Charlie. And Nova is Beckett from book 2's youngest sister, and Charlie is Stella from book 1's older brother. And Charlie he lives in New York. He's very, does some sort of finance thing. He's a finance bro. And he kind of hates it. He puts on this act of I'm so cool, I'm so funny, I'm so hilarious. But really, he's just lonely. And he goes down to Love Light Farms every weekend or every other weekend. And he doesn't even go to see his sister. He goes to spend time with the other families and has a monthly lunch date with Caleb's grandma and all sorts of members of it. He wants to be part of the foam tree, and also he just loves Love Light. And so he convinces Stella to go on a honeymoon with Luca, because at the beginning of this book it's their wedding, and he pays for her to go to Italy for a whole month to enjoy it, have fun. He's I will take care of everything at the farm. Beckett, Layla, and I got this. Don't worry about it. We've got this. And so he's there for a month, and at the beginning of this, Nova propositions Charlie, and he thinks she's joking. He does not realize what she's asking, so he kind of laughs at her. And she gets really upset about this and is well, I guess that's not going to happen. And he's no, wait, come back. I want this to happen. So, yeah, things go from there. It's just adorable. I loved it. And I'm so sad that the series is over. And we had to say goodbye to this wonderful small town. Then I read His Tesoro by Emilia Emerson, and this is a mafia arranged marriage romance following Sophia and Matteo. And Sophia actually has a chronic illness where she basically her joints are extra flexible, but that also causes a lot of problems. I'm possibly saying this wrong, but also causes a lot of issues. And she has when she walks down the aisle, she's in a wheelchair, and she uses a mobility aid and things, because she just can't she can't stand and walk for too long, or her joints dislocate really easily. There's multiple scenes where her joints just dislocate, and she's just oh, just pop it back in and let's keep going. So yeah, very interesting. It was some disease I had never heard of, or chronic illness that I had never heard of. This is EDS was what they called it. But yeah, it was really good. And Matteo is he isn't told that she has this disability when they get married. And she comes down the aisle in a wheelchair. And then the first day of them living together, she's using a walker, she calls it a rollator. So I haven't looked it up. I don't know what it looks like, but, some sort of mobility aid instead, and she's walking around, not in a wheelchair, and he thinks that she like played him, and he gets all mad, and he like, and then she had a really rough home life before getting married, and so she like, he tells her to go to her room. Like, he's like, I just don't be in my way. Like, and so she's like, should I go to my room and like just stay there? So she like stays in her room for like over 24 hours, like doesn't leave, doesn't do anything, like doesn't eat, doesn't that, like she has like a chocolate bar like all day, all night. And like he comes out and he's like, well, what the heck? She's like, well, you told me to stay out of your way, so you told me to go to my room, so I just stayed in there. And he's like, you could have eaten. And he like takes care of her. And that's like the start of them like kind of starting to really like care for her. And yeah, it was just so good. I cried at the beginning of this book. Like, so emotional. The twists, the turns, the craziness. And I'm really excited for what's to come in this series, because I think it could be a potentially really great Mafia series. So, yeah. Then I read Savor by Tarah DeWitt, and this is fake dating, small town, amazingness. This is Fisher and Sage. And Fisher is a chef. But he's kind of struggling. He's kind of reached some burnout, which this is something that happened in another book I read this month. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But he's kind of like had some burnout. He lost a star from his Michelin star. Like, he's just not happy with what he's doing. And he's now raising his niece because his sister has passed away. And he gets asked to go to this small town and like help build up this restaurant. And then his old boss will bring him back into the restaurant so he can potentially earn another star. And his niece is really unhappy about this because she grew up in a small town and her mom was kind of the outcast because her mom was a teen mom. And so she was kind of the outcast, and that didn't help the niece. I can't remember her name. And she's just very upset about this, but she goes along with it. And in the small town, she ends up making friends, and Sage and Fisher are neighbors, and they have a whirlwind like summer romance. They agree like, this is it, like we know what we're doing. And then and the niece is adamant that she wants to go back. Like she wants to go back to New York. Like she does not want to stay in this small town. And they get back to the small town and they're both miserable. And it was just adorable. I loved it. I give it 4.5 stars because it wasn't my favorite Tarah DeWitt book, but I still really, really enjoyed it. Then I read If You Give a Billionaire a Bride by Einerson, again for my new release vlog. I will have linked above. And this is another Married in Vegas romance. 2 of those this month. And I do Chefs Burning Out. Interesting. But this is Cash and Everly. And Cash and Everly have been friends forever because Cash is Theo, who is Everly's twin brother's best friend. And at the beginning of the book, Cash is broken up with by his girlfriend because he has a scar on his face after he was in a really bad accident. And he has a scar, and so his girlfriend is like, no. She breaks up with him right before prom. Well, Everly's boyfriend also happens to break up with her right before prom. So Cash goes to make Everly feel better, and they make a pact that if they're not married by the time they're 30, or by the time they're in their 30s, they will get married to each other. And now it's 14 years later, and Cash and Everly are both in Vegas, and they agree to go get married. They may have had one too many. And then they go back to Aspen Grove for a short period of time because they both live in London. They go back to Aspen Grove for a short period of time, and his family convinces them to stay married because his company is acquiring her family's company. And the optics would look really bad if they got an annulment or a divorce so quickly while this whole thing is going on. So they agreed to stay married, and it was so good. I loved it. Yeah, I give it 4.5 stars just because it wasn't my favorite. It's probably my least favorite so far, but I still really, really enjoyed it. Like, I just felt like I wished there was more of the family because they were so far removed from them being in London, but yeah. Then I read Caught Up by Liz Tomforde, or Tomforde, I've heard it's the actual pronunciation, but the audiobook called it Liz Tomforde. And I will say the audiobook is not the way to go because the hero has this weird laugh, like after every line. He has this weird laugh. I don't know. But it's fine. But this is a single dad nanny romance. And Miller is a pastry chef. She's a James Beard winning pastry chef, world renowned. has like a 4-year wait list because she goes into like these high-end restaurants and helps their with their dessert menu, and she has kind of faced some burnout. She's not able to create, she's not able to come up with any new recipes, and so she quits on the spot after some harassment by a male chef. And so she goes to see her dad, and her dad happens to be the head coach of the Chicago baseball team. And they're on a road trip, and so she goes to see her dad, and she bought herself a Corona and she bought him a Corona. So she's double fisting these 2 beers, and she gets on the elevator, and on the elevator happens to be Kai, who is a single dad and the star pitcher of the baseball team, and he has just told his head coach that he is going to need to quit. He needs to retire because he has now quit like his 5th nanny and can't do it. He wants to be there for his son, so he's gonna quit. And the coach is like, no, give me some time. Let me think about this. And in comes Miller. Miller happens to be Monty's, who's the head coach, his daughter. And he's like, you know what? My daughter is going to be your nanny, and you can't fire her because she's my daughter. And Kai's like, this chick was just double fisting beers at 10 a.m. Like, what? And she's like, I just quit my job. Like, I'm celebrating. So she becomes his nanny, and it was adorable. I loved it. The end was so cute. And Max was just such, I loved him. He was so cute. So yeah, I give that one 4.5 stars. Probably my favorite so far in the series. And I will be reading Play Along in August because my in-person book club is reading it. So yeah, that's why I read Caught Up. Then I DNF'd Naughty Good Girl by Sapphire Night. This is a novella. It's a holiday novella, but maybe that's why. But it's like over the top. It's too much. Basically, Victoria is sold by her father to his best friend because her father has some horrible gambling debts, but I just could not be bothered to pick it up, so I ended up DNFing it about 50% of the way through. Then the last book that I finished in the month was A Promise of Peridot by Kate Golden. I had a great time with this. This is the second book in the Sacred Stones trilogy, the first book being Adon Onyx. And I loved that book. I think I gave it 4 stars. And so I needed to continue, especially because the third book is actually coming out in September, October. So I want to be able to say I'm caught up so that way I don't fall too far behind. Especially on a trilogy, it's nice to be able to say oh, I completed that within a couple months of it all being released. So yeah, I want to be able to stay up on it. So I did read this, and I don't want to say too much because it is a direct continuation of the first book. But basically, in Adon Onyx, Arwen is a healer, and she lives in this small town basically, and she's a healer there. And one day, her family and her mom is very, very sick, and her family believes that her brother is dead because he was conscripted into the army, and they are the military, whatever, and they believe that he is dead now. And one day he shows up, and he is stolen from the king. And so he's like, we gotta go. We're gonna get on a boat. We're gonna go far away from here. We're gonna be safe. Well, they get on this boat, but they realize that they have left their mother's medicine at home, and she really needs it, or they don't think she will live very long without it. So Arwen says, okay, I will go. I'm fast. I'll go home and get it. And there she ends up running into a bunch of military men, soldiers, who are we know you're related to that guy. We're taking you. We're gonna kill you for him stealing, basically. And she's like, no, you can't kill me. And one of the soldiers is very, very injured, and so she's like, I can heal him, but you gotta let me live. So they take her to the Kingdom of Onyx, where the horrible King Ravenswood lives. King Ravenswood lives. And there she may find someone that she wants to build a life with, and he might lie to her about some stuff. And yeah, the first one was really good, and the second one was also very, very good. I cannot wait for the third one. I am nervous for what's gonna happen, but yeah, I love it. I can't wait to see them all lined up together with the tabs, as well as this way. because I've been trying to kind of like, the first one was very purple. This one is like greens and pinks. So greens and pinks are what is here. But yeah, and the next one's like reds and browns. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, that is it. Those are my 10 books and 1 DNF I had for the month, the second half of the month. And yeah, if you made it to the end of this video, leave me like a knife or a sword or whatever emoji, because that. And it's a big part of this book. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the fun stuff. It really helps me out, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Bye.